Why don't you just jump in and tell us what you would like to promote here on the podcast?
Yeah, this year we're taking a little bit less of a product approach. I think we're fairly well known as a pump manufacturer, but we also do a lot of other things. And this year you're going to see at our booth more of a system design approach. So we're going to be showcasing three of our main solutions, which is Design Envelope, Integrated Designer, and our Advisor. So I'll dive a little bit into each of those. For Design Envelope, that's all about making systems run smarter and more efficiently.
Mhm.
So instead of equipment that, it's performing well right when you first start it up and commission it, it's going to continuously adjust how the pumps are being controlled and working together, and that way it keeps your system efficient and it saves energy over the full life of that product. With the integrated designer, that's essentially taking your design conditions that you would have from an engineer, and we're providing an optimum quantity of pumps or systems that you could use to meet the building's requirements. So that tool compares upfront costs, install costs, operational costs, and then it kind of looks at the balance of all those to determine what our lowest overall lifecycle cost would be.
Okay.
In the process, we save time, we reduce errors, and it helps eliminate a lot of the guesswork that engineers are typically stuck with when they're trying to work on the system design. So hopefully, our guests will come to the booth and they'll get to see some of the demos we have there based on real projects we've worked on. And
Mhm.
it'll show the difference between what an optimized system looks like and what a non-optimized system might look like. Lastly, the advisor, that's just taking things a step further. Now we're constantly monitoring and fine tuning the whole system. So it's not just looking at Armstrong pumps or just Armstrong equipment. Now we're taking that same technology that we have for our pumps and the design envelope, and we're applying it to everything in the system.
You brought up an interesting topic. I wanted to circle back. You mentioned that people that are going to go to the booth can see the difference between an optimized system and, I guess, a non-optimized system. Can you expound upon that? Can you tell me a little bit more about what the differences they would see, I guess, between optimized and non-optimized?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So there's a lot of really efficient equipment out in the industry, right? A lot of the manufacturers are making really cool stuff. We're not the only ones that are, following technology. Everybody is in the whole industry. The biggest difference is that a piece of optimized equipment, a piece of highly efficient equipment, that may or may not impact your overall system. If you have the highest piece of efficient equipment, but your systems aren't operating well together, it's a big waste of money. So when you can have something that's looking at everything together and really focused on the whole design, you get a lot more efficiency out of it.
Good. When you're at the booth, you're obviously going to be meeting a lot of contractors, a lot of engineers, maybe some wholesalers. But, and we publish 3 magazines just for those readers. But at the end of the day, there's always that end user, that building manager or property developer or something that says, I want that system installed in my building or, something. What's the benefit of these 3 items that you mentioned to the end user, I guess?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was just saying. So instead of looking at it from a piece of equipment perspective, it's much smarter to look at the full system. And so we're using intelligent software and some patented control techniques so that we can really squeeze out every bit of efficiency we can find. And, something from the pump perspective, flow is so critical to system performance. And I think it's often overlooked how the pumps impact the system operation because it's, when we're talking a mechanical room, you got big chillers in there, big cooling towers, big boilers, and the pumps seem like the little guy. But at the end of the day, they're really highly critical to how the system's being controlled by the way we're moving the heat around through the flow of the water in the system. So I think, more importantly, most systems are designed to perform well under perfect conditions and at a very specific design. And I think we all know in this industry that buildings don't operate that way, right? So you need feedback. That's really what we bring to the table. So design envelopes, it's able to continuously adapt and keep a system running at its most efficient range throughout the whole life cycle of it. So you have less wasted energy, more reliable performance, and then better insight just into how your system's operating over time.
You mentioned a few important items that we can expect to see at the booth, but there's going to be other things at your booth. What can you tell us more that attendees at the AHR Expo might see at the booth, in addition to these 3 items that you mentioned?
Yeah, so we're doing something a little different this year. We actually are doing a 2-story booth, which is different for us. I mean, and actually at HR, it's not really that common either. So it's kind of new for HR as well. So what we're going to do up there is have a customer testimonial zone on the top floor. We want our customers and our visitors to hear directly from some of the end users and the consulting engineers that we've worked with some of the solutions we talked about already and the buildings that are actually in already in America. So these aren't concepts, right? These are real solutions that we have for the market right now. And we want people to be able to talk to the people in the industry for hospitality, retail, consumer goods, data centers even. So we want people to be able to come and talk to real customers and learn about our product.
Well, sounds like an eye-catching booth, and I think one I'll be easily to spot from that big crowded floor. Now, listen, you and I are talking. We got 11 and a half months ahead of us. What else can we expect from Armstrong Fluid Technologies in the coming year?
Yeah, so last year we introduced a couple of newer products. So one of them was our loop circulator, new motor technology, an integrated approach to circulators, and adding some technology. All of our advanced technology that we have on our commercial pumps, we're trying to integrate that into a circulator now, and we want that to be introduced to the market. We're also working on what we call our ETS. It's our energy transfer station. That's essentially a really intelligent heat exchanger combined with a pumping system. And so what we're doing is we're actually looking at the controls and how those two interact, and we're able to do some really cool things like self-cleaning and optimize the operation of those two systems together rather than looking at them independently. Again, back to, we've kind of covered that over and over and over again, but you get the message, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, we're introducing our new compact modular pumping system. We call that our SE-FMS. For those of us who are familiar with our older technology that we've had out for a while, the IFMS product line, this is our new design. It's a little bit easier to select. It's going to reduce the install time. It's a lower cost than that product. It's lower weight, lower footprint. And so really the benefit of it is, there's some installation inconsistencies when all the work's done in the field. And sometimes you can't find skilled labor to do that work in certain locations. So it's a nice offering to have to kind of simplify the whole installation process in a really energy efficient way.
Well, Tim, that's a earful. And with a two-story booth, I know it'll be easy to spot, but just in case you do need to know the number, it's C4735, C4735 at next month's AHR Expo. Tim, thanks for coming on board and tell us a little bit more about what we're going to see next month.